What's going on, everyone? Your mom's favorite YouTuber, KKS here, and welcome back to another video. Today is the last part of my 2021 NFL mock draft. I've already made 3 videos, I already uploaded them all, so make sure to go check those out. I've got the link in the description and before watching this one. And yeah, so if you've watched the previous ones, you know the drill. At the top, we've got the pick number, the number of the pick, and the team that's selecting at that pick, the player that they're taking, that I think they're going to take, and the position that player plays. And I'm going to have a picture of that player as well. And in the bottom right, we've got my big board rank of that player. So, yeah, we're going to start off with pick 25. We're going to end with pick 32 and stay all the way to the end so that you can see my overall big board, top 50 players, along with honorable mentions. So let's get to it. The first pick is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Um, they took Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick. I think we all agree that's going to happen. And I think this time they go and address the defense and they take a player that I love, and that's going to be Trevonne Moore. The free safety from TCU. I think he'd be a great fit in Jacksonville. They have a need for a free safety, and I think it'll be a massive dub for both parties. Morig's a great player. I'm not sure why he's projected to be a late first round pick, or early second round pick by many. He probably the reason's probably because there's not much of a need for safety. I mean, first of all, safety is not really like a position you'd want to invest a high draft pick on. You know, there are bigger needs like quarterback, receiver, edge rushers, linemen, and whatnot. So safety is probably towards the end of that list. And also, teams nowadays don't really need that many safeties. A lot of teams run with one safety, or they already just have two safeties that they're happy with. Nobody really like looks to have a star safety. You know, they're good with the guys that if they have solid guys at safety and stars on the D line at the linebacker or corner positions, and they'll be good with a solid safeties. Unless you're Seattle and then you trade your whole future for defensive lineman who plays safety. But anyways, um, I think Trevonne Moehrig a top 20 talent. As you can see by my ranking, I have him 18th. Reasons are he has great size. He's a ball hawk, very smart. He was given a lot of responsibility over at TCU, and he stepped up to the plate. He did his job, and his versatility. He could honestly play either safety spot. He can cover any position, wide receiver, slot receiver, tight ends, and running backs. He can play in any scheme, and you could plug him in as a linebacker in certain defensive sets, and he'll do the job. Um, few problems with this game, I guess. He took a step back, but a very small one from 2019 to 2020. That's not really a concern for me, honestly, as long as it wasn't any massive drop off. And another thing is he struggles with tackling, and most of that's because he takes bad angles, he misreads certain players, and oftentimes you don't want your safety messing up tackles. That could end up in a touchdown. But other than that, I really love Trevonne Moore. I think he'll be a star in this league. Well, he could be a star. I'm not guaranteeing he's going to be a star because he is going to Jacksonville. You never know. But I think he could be a great player. Next up, the Browns. They had a really great season this year. It wasn't really surprising considering the talent that they have on their roster. They have very few needs, and they're ultimately in the position where they can take the best player available. Um, and to me, that player is Gregory Rousseau. So, yeah, my ranking seems high, number 12 overall, and he's being taken 26th. And that's just because I value potential a lot. And Gregory Rousseau has one of the best potentials in this draft. Different scouts have mixed opinions on Rousseau. Many think he's a great player with elite potential, like me, and others just don't like him because he didn't offer much on tape, which is true. He definitely underperformed this season. But I'm in the camp of people who thinks this guy will be a stud. Cleveland would honestly be one of the best fits for him at this point in the draft. I guess you could say Baltimore would too. But I mean, in Cleveland, he won't have to start immediately because the Browns have Myles Garrett, obviously, and they just signed Jadeveon Clowney. But next year, if Clowney does not give them what they want exactly, or he does, and then he wants a high contract, then they could just let him walk. And if Rousseau develops and is ready for the job, then he'll be starting for the Cleveland Browns. And imagine Myles Garrett and Gregory Rousseau, who's reached his full potential on the opposite side. That could potentially be the best edge rushing duo in the league. Um, but anyways, things about Rousseau: great athlete, great strength, tough player. No question about his work ethic. He doesn't really have any holes in his game. It's just that he hasn't really been excellent in any trait on the field. But we all see his potential, and he's one of the most difficult prospects to analyze because of that. And the only things we can do are look at his raw potential and any negative traits that he may have. And the reason I have him so high is because I don't see very many negative traits about him. It's just that he didn't really perform well, and you can't really blame him. It was a very weird year. Miami was a decent team. They played against decent competition in the ACC, but the NFL is a whole different beast, and he's gotta have to step up. He's gonna have to work hard, and I hope he's gonna be successful. And if he goes to Cleveland, I hope they do everything they can to help him succeed. Um, Next up, Baltimore, Cleveland's division rival. I have him taking Rondale Moore. Oh man, this guy, Rondale Moore, he's a beast. He would be an interesting option for Baltimore. I should probably reiterate. I mentioned this in my other videos, I think, but the wide receivers at the top of the draft, Chase, Waddle, Devontae Smith, they could go in any order. I would not be surprised if Devontae Smith goes first. I would not be surprised if he gets taken last. And same with all these guys. Although I wouldn't want Chase to be the third receiver taken. I think that would be just a mistake. But other than that, I think the orders can go anyway. Just depends on the team and what they value in a receiver. Um, and after the top three, the receivers are just so close in quality that it all just comes down to the team's preference. Um, I mean, if you haven't watched the previous video, I had the Tennessee Titans drafting Elijah Moore, and he's not a top five receiver in my opinion in this draft, but I had him as the fourth receiver taken, and yeah, it's just what the teams want, what they think is going to be the best fit for them, and I think with the Ravens, Rondale Moore would be the most intriguing to them. I mean, he could be drafted anywhere between the late first round and even late second round. It just depends on how the draft plays out with receivers. But I have him being taken quite early by B More. Um, I mean, reasons are he's a beautiful route runner. Um, Probably the best route runner in this draft, in my opinion. He's got great speed. He's a great athlete. He's a very smart, very hardworking player. He's a very nice guy as well, team player. He's everything you want out of a rookie. He'll get you them yak yards, yards after catch, and I think he's a great guy who fits an offense led by Lamar Jackson. The problem with Rondale Moore is that, I mean, he's 5'7", which if you don't know is short. I'm sorry, all you 5'7" kings out there, but that's short. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Rondale made it work. I hope you guys do too. Anyways, I don't really mind his height at his position as a slot guy. He won't ever really be a deep threat anyway, considering his quarterback is Lamar Jackson. Um, I think they need a lot more weapons, like in the short to intermediate ranges, than they do in the deep range department. I mean, they already have Hollywood Brown in that position as well. So the deep threat is already covered, and I don't think they need another deep threat. So that's why I don't think a guy like Rashod Bateman would be a good fit. I think Rondale Moore would be a better fit for Baltimore. And overall, I just think the negative aspects of Rondale's game won't be problems in Baltimore because Lamar's limitations already won't require him to work deep down the field or have to worry about contested passes. I think as long as he does his job, does what he's good at, he'll be a great contributor to this Baltimore team who's trying to take the next step to becoming true Super Bowl contenders. Um, Next up, New Orleans. I have another receiver getting taken. I have Terrace Marshall Jr., wide receiver from LSU. I think he stays in state, moving from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. I love Terrace Marshall, not as much as his teammate Jamar Chase, but this guy has a lot of potential as well. And if the Saints take him, I think it could be a very strong wide receiver duo in New Orleans with him and Michael Thomas. Another guy I could see New Orleans taking is Rashod Bateman. I think he's a great pick as well, great fit for New Orleans. But I think if an in-state guy is available, then you take that guy if he's going to fit into the team, and I think New Orleans will do that. Um, things about Terrace Marshall. He's got great size, great speed, elite catch radius, much like Jamar Chase. And really all LSU wide receivers. I mean, all of the LSU wide receivers you can think of are some of the um, best receivers in the league with the best catch radius. Jarvis Landry, for a long time, he had some of the best hands in the league. Odell, in order to make that play, you need some sort of elite catch radius. And as I mentioned, Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall as well. And Justin Jefferson, forgot to mention him. He's also, look at what he's doing. Anyways, I think Terrace Marshall, along with all those guys I mentioned, they became stars. I think Terrace Marshall and Jamar Chase have potentials to be star wide receivers in the league as well. The only problem is he's got to have the right mindset. In 2019, he had Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, Thad Moss, and Clyde and other guys, but this past year, all those guys were gone, and he struggled, and LSU struggled as a whole. Um, so that's why his draft stock didn't fall much because LSU they had a first year quarterback. Their team in general just wasn't good. You couldn't really put the blame on Terrace Marshall, but he opted out pretty quick as well to avoid possibly hurting his draft stock further. And some people see that as giving up, and thought while he was playing, he wasn't quite working hard enough anyway. It's true. I definitely see that, but at the end of the day, he wasn't really put in a position to succeed, and I can only imagine what he had to go through um, at LSU this past year, especially coming off the national championship success they had the previous year. But if he doesn't get taken in the first round, like he's taken early second round, he's gonna have to go through those troubles again. And even in New Orleans, who knows who their quarterback's gonna be? And even if like Jameis, we all know that dude threw 30 interceptions his last full season, and Taysom Hill, he's not really proven. So we never know what's gonna happen. Um, if he falls into a beautiful position, like I don't know, Green Bay, maybe Baltimore, I don't know, then maybe you will be less of a worry. But for a team like if he gets taken in the second round, then early second round, then I don't know what's gonna happen. But he just has to have the right mindset. If he does land in NOLA, he has talent around him. Even though the quarterback is uncertain, he's got Michael Thomas. He won't have to be the number one guy. He's got Kamara as well, and there won't be too much pressure onto him. And I think he has the potential to be a star receiver depending on the situation he lands in. Next up, pick 29, Green Bay Packers. Last year they took Jordan Love. This year, I mean, they've got a few needs, but I think the trend of taking receivers continues. I think they take Rashod Bateman. Um, Last year, the Packers pissed off Rodgers so much that he went out and won MVP, took him to the NFC Championship. Um, This year, I predict they reward him. Well, reward him, but they could just be drafting a receiver who could develop to be a star when Jordan Love comes into the fold and needs the best situation around him. But either way, he fills both those needs to be a guy who will help their team right now and in the future help Jordan Love. I think the Packers could be getting this guy for a steal. I have him as my number 17th ranked prospect, and they're picking at number 29. I mean, the Saints could pass on him. They could take him. I mean, lots of teams need receivers earlier in the draft. But if Rashod Bateman is available at number 29 and the Packers do something ridiculous again, I mean, I'm sorry, Packers fans, but Rashod Bateman is a perfect fit for this team. Um, he's got NFL size. He's got great hands. He's got a great set of release moves off the line of scrimmage. I love that in receivers, especially rookie receivers. And he's a solid route runner. And the main reason why I like him and why he's a great fit in Green Bay is because he's a great deep threat. So if Davante Adams is going to be your reliable possession guy in the short, intermediate, and even sometimes deep range, um, Bateman is the guy who will go out there and make the big plays, the deep plays. I don't see Davante Adams as great as he is. I think he's one of the best receivers in the league, if not the best. I think he was the best last year. Um, as good as he is, he's not really known for being a deep vertical threat. And Rashod Bateman is that. And the Packers oftentimes last year wanted to take deep shots, and they tried with MVS, Marquez Valdez Scantling, but it didn't really work out for them much, in my opinion. I don't think it did. And I think Rashod Bateman fits that fold. So I think he's a perfect fit. He still requires work in tracking down deep passes, but if he works on that, works on fixing that, I don't see many problems. He lets corners overpower him oftentimes. I want to see him be more physical and not just use these finesse release moves. Um, but I mean, that's just being very, very critical of him. Those are some of the things that I'd like to see better. And in general, he had trouble dealing with some of the toughest corners in the Big Ten. So he's got to adjust to the NFL because there are no soft corners in the NFL. In the Big Ten, you're gonna go up against some guys who probably shouldn't be there. But in the NFL, everybody is has a everybody did the job to be put into the NFL, and it's they all did the work, and it's not going to be easy to beat them. So um, if Rashod Bateman goes to Green Bay, I have no doubt he'll succeed in his position. But who knows what could happen and for some teams like I don't know Jacksonville or I don't know. But I think these receivers, Rondale Moore, Terrace Marshall, Rashod Bateman, if they end up in these spots that I mock them to, they will be great. I confident confidently believe that, and it's just great positions for them to be in. Next up, the run of receivers ends here, unfortunately. Um, the Buffalo Bills are next. They have Stephon Diggs. He was one of the best receivers last year as well. They signed Emmanuel Sanders, and they still have Cole Beasley, I believe. So wide receiver is not really a big need for them. They really don't have much needs, in all honesty. But um, I have them taking one of the best players available, and that's Kwity Paye. Um, so the thing with Kwity Paye is I really do like him, but not as much as these other scouts do. Some people have him as a top 20 player, top 15 player. I mean, I just don't see that. I just don't rate him as highly as other scouts. And I mocked him falling down to 30, but I highly doubt he falls this far. The Vikings at 14 could take him instead of Jalen Phillips, and it wouldn't be a bad pick, honestly. The Jets at 23 could take him. The Browns at 26 could take him instead of Rousseau. And other teams could take him as well. But the way that the mock worked out, I thought Kwity Paye would fall this far. Um, And yeah, I don't think he's a top 20 player in this draft, even though I do like him. But I think in Buffalo he'll be a great player. He does need a bit of work though. He started less than 20 games in college, so that's why I want him to go to a team where he doesn't have to start immediately. And in the games he played in college, we saw his potential. I mean, obviously, that's why he's being mocked as a first round pick. But he was inconsistent at times. Sometimes we saw the potential always, but sometimes the production wasn't there in some games. But things about Kuripe I want to see. I want him to be more aggressive. Right now, he doesn't attack linemen hard enough, and as a result, those inconsistencies arise. He gets bullies at the line at times. He gets bullied at the line at times, and other than that, I really like his game, and I think he can evolve into a star edge rusher for the Buffalo Bills. He's the exact kind of guy you'd love to have on your team, honestly. He's a great fit into the culture they're building up in Buffalo. He's very quick off the line, explosive, strong player. I just want him to utilize that strength more against linemen, not just quarterbacks, um, and running backs, obviously. And I really like him, and I want the best for him in this league. And I'm looking forward to watching him, especially if he lands in Buffalo. Just not when my team plays against him. Next up, the Ravens. Again, they acquired this pick from the Chiefs a few days ago as part of the Orlando Brown trade. They addressed the need at receiver. They could take another one. I still think they'll need another receiver for their team. Kadarius Toney's available, but I think they now that Orlando Brown's gone, they have a need at right tackle, and I think Jalen Mayfield would be a great replacement. A lot of people don't rate Jalen Mayfield as highly as I do. I have him rated as number 32, like end of the first round, beginning of the second round kind of a prospect. But I think he's the best right tackle in this draft. Well, assuming you don't move one of the left tackles or guards to right tackle. And I think if Baltimore are fortunate enough to have him available, then they should take him. And I think he'll be able to replace the production left by Orlando Brown. I think they're somewhat similar players. They both, or Jalen Mayfield, although I think he's a better athlete, which will help in the run game where Baltimore thrives in. They've got Lamar, and Jalen Mayfield's not only going to protect him, but he's going to help him create some holes for himself. J.K. Dobbins as well, and there are other players in the backfield. And he plays with aggression, um, the kind of aggression you want in your lineman, which is why I see similarities with him and Orlando Brown. And even though he's aggressive, he's not as strong as you want him to be, which is fine. Honestly, I'd rather have aggressiveness in the mental aspect than strength because you put all your effort into your job, then the strength will come along eventually. And I mean, I don't know. I think Jalen Mayfield he can always build up strength. Aggressiveness is not something you can just teach easily. And also, he's got problems with his technique, both with his footwork and his arm and hand placement. He'll need a bit of work, but I believe he's the best choice for the Ravens at this point. And it might take a year for him to really start looking good, and he might come with some headaches in his rookie year. But I mean, the draft is where long-term solutions are solved, and Jalen Mayfield, I think, is a long-term solution for the Baltimore Ravens. And last but not least, the Super Bowl champions. Um, they got they got a blessing getting Tom Brady, and he just changed the whole dynamic of that team. And I think in this draft, they get yet another blessing with a talented player that falls right into their defense, right? That fills a need in their defense and right into their laps. And that player is Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama. With Ndamukong Suh aging, I think Barmore will be a nice future replacement for him, and he's a very talented player in his own right. Very big, very strong player. Fits into Tampa's 3-4 system. He could play any three spots on that line. Um, he's not only strong, but he's got very nice technique for such a big player. Um, that's what you expect out of a guy from coming from Alabama. and I think he'll be a great player from day one. He'll be a strong rotational piece until space opens up for him to be a starter for Tampa's D line. Um, I mean, problems in Barmore's game, I guess tackling running backs. He misses tackles a bit too much. He needs to work on counter moves a bit more. And other than that, I'm happy with where he's at in his game. And I think he could be a guy who plays for this Tampa defense for the next 10 years. Um, so that's the draft. Let's take a look at my top 50 big board. Um, I'll mainly just speak about the players who I think will be second round picks. I mean, here 1 through 10, all the players got picked, no surprise. Yeah, I have Justin Fields as the best quarterback, Chase as the best wide receiver. I do have Sewell as a number 3 prospect, although Darius I think could be a better fit for some teams. And Kyle Pitts, my number 1 overall prospect, falling to 12. I mean, it's just the way the draft plays out. And I mean, I fully expect him to be drafted earlier. I could see Atlanta taking him, but moving on. Here, everybody, everybody here is picked. As you can see, I put J.C. Horn above Surtain. I had him, I think, at 8. And I think even though Surtain gets picked first, it's just about preference. I have Rousseau as my highest edge rusher, again, based fully on potential. I think Jalen Phillips will be a better player from day one, but overall career-wise, Rousseau. Trey Lance, number 13. I think he's a great player, and he's a better fit for some teams than a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson, but I don't think he's as good as them. And I guess those are the notable ones. Next up, a few of my second round picks. My top highest rated player, who I think will be a second round pick, Travis Etienne, um, as well as Kadarius Toney. I love both of them and wish they were first round picks in my mocks, but the other guys I think were just better respective fits. Maybe Nola could take Toney as well, but I like Terrace Marshall as well. So either way, there's a loss. One of these stud wide receivers are gonna be second round picks, maybe even two. Um, and with ETN, I mean either him or Najee are gonna be second round picks. I can't see two running backs being picked in the first round. I mean, the only scenario I see that is if the Jets go running back and the Steelers also go running back. But I don't think both of them go in that direction. Javonte Williams, another guy lots of people love, and he's getting lots of attention right before the draft. I think he'll be a second round pick. I could see him going to third round, possibly if the draft plays out a certain way, but I highly doubt it. I think he'll be a second round pick. Over here, um, Big Pat. I love Big Pat. Um, I think he'll be a great tight end somewhere. Remember his name. If you are a big fantasy football fan and you play a lot of dynasty drafts, I say take a late round flyer on Pat Fairmouth. Because he was seen as the best tight end coming into this college season until Kyle Pitts showed what he was all about. And I think as a result, that negatively impacted his stock, but I think he's still he's going to be a great tight end in this league. So remember him. Paulson Adebo is somebody I'm higher on than most. I think he'll be a great fit somewhere. Great player. Dwayne Eskridge as well. I think he's one of the sleeper picks in this draft. He's probably going to get drafted in the third or fourth round. Second round if somebody really likes him enough. But I see him as one of the most talented receivers in this draft. He's just older, he's undersized, and that's where teams have issues. But I really like Eskridge. Same with Thailand Wallace. I mean, I see him as kind of like Rashod Bateman, but worse. No offense to Thailand Wallace, I think he's a great player. Um, and I think he'll be a third round pick, but I think he should be more of a second round pick. Aziz Ojulari as well, an edge rusher I really do like, but I mean I just like these players more than him, and as a result, I think he's a second round player. I mean I don't think his talent shows that he's a second round player, but the players ahead of him are just too talented for me to drop, and he might actually go first round. But worst case scenario, he falls to the second round for him. Brevin Jordan, another tight end I really like. Not as much as Pat or Pitts, obviously, but I think he could be a great player in this league. And Creed Humphrey as well. I'm a big fan of Creed Humphrey. He's the best center in this draft by far. And if somebody gets him in the second round, they're going to have a steal because he's a great player. Um, and then lastly, my last 41 through 50, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not as big of a fan as him as I am with these other receivers, but a lot of scouts do like him, and there are parts of his game that are good to watch. Walker Little, again, I'm not as high on him as most, but he could be a great tackle in this league if utilized properly. The two slot corners, Asante Samuel Jr. and Shaun Wade. Shaun Wade, a lot of people have like outside their top 100. I just don't see it. I think his talent is there. I think I wrote second to fourth round, but these mocks I've been seeing the past few days, a lot of them have a fifth, sixth round, so you never know what happens. But I do think Asante Samuel Jr. is the best, is the better of those two, and I think he's a late second, early third round pick. Dylan Radunz, he had a great Senior Bowl. I could see him being a second round pick. I don't see him falling down to the third. And yes, I have Kyle Trask over Mac Jones. Um, I just think he's the better player. That's why I'm going to be eternally depressed if the 49ers take McCorkle over my number 4 overall prospect Justin Fields or my number 13 overall prospect Trey Lance. Um, Lastly, a few more guys that I like. Nick Bolton. I think he's got very nice potential, and Javon Holland as well. I see them both being great players in this league with star potential. I don't know if they're going to reach that potential, but they've got that. Um, Yeah, that's it. Oh, honorable mentions. Kellen Monde. A lot of people like him. I see him as very stiff, which is why he's not close to being ready as a starting quarterback in the NFL. But he's got the potential. I think somebody takes him in the second round. But I mean, we've seen weird things happen. Jake Fromm, was it last year? Yeah, last year I think fell to the fifth round when everybody thought he was going to be a second or third round pick. So you never know what's going to happen. I really like Michael Carter, the other running back out of North Carolina. Not as much as Javonte Williams, but enough to be an honorable mention. Alex Leatherwood, another tackle lots of people love. I just don't see it as much as the other guys. Patrick Jones, the second, he's an edge rusher. Um, a lot of scouts believe he'll be a third, fourth round pick. I think somebody's going to like him enough to possibly be a second or third round pick. He's got interesting traits that make him have this star potential. And somebody could take a flyer on him, somebody who doesn't have a need for an edge rusher. Patrick Jones will be a great fit. Jamin Davis and Joseph Asai, both great linebackers who I love. Just couldn't fit them into the top 50. Jamar Johnson, another safety who I really like. I think out of all the guys here, number 51 would be Jamar Johnson. Um, I think I just prefer Javon Holland and Wyatt Davis as well. He's one of the best interior linemen in this draft. Um, I think he's going to be a great starter in this league. So that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Again, if you haven't watched the previous videos leading up to this one, make sure you check those out. Again, link in description. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Please subscribe for more. I know I took a break from YouTube a bit. Had to fix up a few things in my life, but I'm back now. I'm gonna stay away from daily uploads, but enough to have videos out every week. And so make sure you subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below if you're happy with your team's pick. If you're unhappy, what do you think? What direction do you think they should go? And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.